Okay, it's 5:45. We'll start. Thanks, Farron, for all your work on this. We do have a quorum of our board team. I'll mention everybody that's on our board team that's on our Zoom. So that would be Mr. Parker, Mr. Hernandez, Ms. Mizell Flint, Mr. Dindal, Mr. Kingman, Mr. Gallegos, and Mr. Lehman. So all of our board team is here. Appreciate everybody. Art and Gerard, since y'all didn't vote at the last time, what we have to do is when we call for a vote, I'll call everybody's name out and you'll have to say that whether you vote yes or no on our motion, okay?
Okay.
And we'll proceed. So the item one's the fact that we called our meeting to an order and we have a quorum, so we do that. Item two is an item that's on all of our agendas that's for public comment. Anyone wishing to make comment to our board team, not on the agenda. We didn't have anybody sign up for that. There's a deadline on our website and all of our meeting information that says that has to be done by 5:30. And Dr. Gomez didn't have anybody do that. So that gets us past item two. Item three is to consider resolution regarding delegation of temporary purchasing authority to the superintendent, and Dr. McFarland's going to review that with us. So go ahead, George.
Yes, sir, Mr. Lehman and members of the board. We have a revisiting here of the purchasing plan for the COVID-19 school closure and what you did during this time. So as we review previously at the last board meeting on March 30th, where we went through video conference, we adopted a resolution that was based off the original one that was originally adopted on March 23rd. Again, the language that's changed in it has been dates and really the date for when it begins and ends, and then the date for the signing for the board president and the board secretary. Those are the things that have changed. Again, the original and this resolution is giving purchasing authority to the superintendent for purchases of $25,000 or more as they come up that may be needed more quickly than we can get to a board meeting. And that's the purpose of the resolution. And again, the original and this resolution states that we revisit this in our weekly virtual meetings. The new resolution is effective pending adoption today until next Monday, which is April 13th. Where it would be revisited for consideration. And then the last thing, and you sent this in your Friday facts, there's only been, since last Monday up till now, one purchase. It's been associated with the COVID-19 purchases, and that was more dealing with our One Talk app to get availability for people to be communicated with off their campuses and to be reached through telephone while they're away from their offices. And that was a purchase for $150. Any questions I can answer?
Dr. McFarland and Mr. Lehman, I have a comment, please.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
For anyone that of our constituents that are viewing remotely this evening, I just want to provide a quick recap. This policy is really just insurance, and we wanted to ensure that we continued to have our Board of Trustees oversight with our financial matters. Many of our board members ran for their elected positions 16, 17 years ago on the premise to ensure that we provided financial transparency to our school district and community. So this is in an effort to continue that transparency. Many districts are adopting a similar policy to get them through this crisis, and I'm very appreciative that we continue to have board oversight and want our board to continue to look closely at our finances even in a crisis situation. So that is the reason behind this policy, and I'll turn it back over to Mr. Lehman.
Thanks, Dr. Detloff. And that's certainly true. We appreciate that. And this allows us to actually, Dr. McFarland sends us this information generally in our Friday facts. And then we handle it again through this resolution. And as we approve this resolution, we get to see any purchases that might have been made as a result of COVID-19. So
If I could add one more point to it, just for informational purposes, for those who in the audience that may also be listening, as Dr. Detloff wanted to address, which was perfect, these aren't necessarily things that we would consider purchases outside the normal budget. They are just normally what purchases that we have budgeted monies for, but we always bring to the board those purchase amounts above 25,000 as is in policy. And actually we bring them to them above 20,000 for their information and their approval. So this is something, again, just an extra level for us, an extra layer, I should say, for us. So I don't want the public to think these are non-budgeted items that we're looking at purchasing, even if they eventually do go over that amount.
Okay, thanks, Dr. McFarland, for that clarification. Anybody else? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the resolution regarding delegation of temporary purchasing authority to Dr. Detloff.
Move to approve.
Second.
So we have a motion from Art Hernandez and a second from Mr. Gallegos, Gerard Gallegos. Any other questions or comments from our board team? If not, I'll ask for everyone to vote, and I'll just ask as we appear on the screen here. So Lanny Lehman votes aye. Mr. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Hernandez?
Aye.
Ms. Mizell Flint?
Aye.
Mr. Dindal? Mr. Dindal? We got to unmute Mr. Dindal, Farah. Okay. Mr. Dindal votes aye. Dr. Kingman?
Aye.
Dr. Kingman votes aye. Mr. Gallegos?
Aye.
Okay, so the resolution passes 7-0. Becky, when would you like for us to come up and sign that resolution, Gerard and I?
Actually, I got my DocuSign account set up, and so I'm going to attempt to email that to you guys, and you can sign it through DocuSign.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So that pretty much concludes our business, unless anybody has anything else they'd like to discuss this evening. That's we technically can't discuss since it's not on our agenda, but if we have anything we'd like to put on our agenda for our pre-agenda meeting, now would be a great time to do that.
It's probably going to be covered already, but I'd really love to hear numbers of like how many kids have logged in and how that's all going with the online.
Okay, so we'll ask Dr. Ritter to help us with that as far as, how many students are, logging in, how well we're doing with all of our students, and other changes that we might have made since we made our presentation at our last board meeting.
Absolutely, will do.
Okay.
Mr. Lehman, we also may want to check in on how the meal distribution is going for all the campuses right now.
Okay, thanks, Bill. So we might make note of that.
I'll be happy to give an update on that information.
Okay, thanks, Dr. McFarland.
Thanks, Doctor.
Anything else? Anyone? If not, and hearing no objection, we'll stand adjourned. Thank y'all for y'all's promptness, and I'll look forward to seeing everybody in this same format next Monday at 5:45.